Something that I'm constantly asked about is, where are you from? What's your ethnicity? Like, I think a lot of people think that I might be Indian because I've covered Indian gaming history. Like, why would anyone be interested in that? I spend a lot of time in Greece, so a lot of people think that I might be Greek because of that reason. Like, I can speak like a few phrases in Greek, so that's pretty legit there. I suppose I'm quite a racially ambiguous person. I can arrive in like quite a few countries and people will speak to me in their local language and then won't realise to begin with that perhaps I don't speak their language because I'm not one of them. I'm not one of you. I thought that it would be a good idea to find out what I'm made up of. I've got a bit of an idea as to what my ethnicity is because like I know where my mum's from, I know where my dad's from, but then I suppose you see a lot of these like DNA like results videos and people are always like shocked. They're always like, oh my god, I'm this, I had no idea, blah 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 blah. So I thought I'd do one of these like exciting videos. So drum roll please for the racially ambiguous lady to open up her results, which I have right here, and obviously this is what you're all here for. So without further ado, let's open the packet and pull out my phone.
Coming out from a different angle.
My phone right here, which has my results on. And I say that, I've actually got a laptop here. It's already open. I've already read the results.
Oh man, you're just ruining it.
To be honest with you, before I tell you what my results are, I was actually, at one of the results, genuinely shocked. I could not believe one of these results. And when I tell you it, I'll explain why it shocked me. And do you know what? By the end of this video, if you yourself, whether you're in America, whether you're in Australia or New Zealand or Canada or wherever, and you have got some similar results to me and you're sitting there thinking, why on earth is it saying that I've got DNA from that country? I'm hoping that by the end of this video, you will have an understanding that's a little bit more clear, because I've done loads of research over the last few days since I got these results, and now like my like world history knowledge has just gone whoosh. I understand the world now. So, right, here we go. I am .2% Irish / Scottish / Welsh. You might be sitting there thinking, why is she so shocked? What is so shocking about all of that? It's not the fact that there's Irish and Welsh there, because I kind of knew that. I knew that because I've got grandparents who both told me that that's where they're basically where they're from. But when you look at my DNA results as an entirety, there's no English, none at all. So I've got this segment which is saying Irish, Scottish and Welsh, and then I've got two other segments which are saying other things. But then when you look at the full breakdown, it says English 0%. And I was thinking, how can there be 0%? I've lived in England my whole life, and I've got generations of family who have lived in England going back for many, many years. What I thought I'd do was look into it a bit deeper. Looking at that breakdown, the Irish and the Welsh parts do make sense to me. I've got one nan who is Welsh, and my other nan, her mother was from Ireland, but we don't know anything about her father. What about the rest of my family? I've got family members who have lived in England going back generations and generations and generations. How can they possibly live in England but not be English? And I think if you take a look at the word England, it's actually, in the grand scheme of things, a much newer word. So if you roll back the clock and go back to before the Romans arrived in England, you actually had the umbrella term for all of the people being here being the Celts. I think that's probably a word that everyone has heard of, the Celts. So that's basically an umbrella term for all of the people that lived around the British Isles. England wasn't a thing back then. You didn't have England, you didn't have Scotland, you didn't have Wales. That all happened much later down the road of time. You had the Celts living in England, you had the arrival of the Roman Empire, and then after the Roman Empire left, the next grand thing to happen would be the arrival of the Anglo-Saxons. Now, the Anglo-Saxons is made up of two different groups of people. The Saxons themselves are a Germanic race of people from basically North Germany, and then the Angles are basically from Denmark. They would come over, they would move into different parts, and then as time moved on, they would become one people. You would then get invasions from Norwegian people, also known as Vikings. From that point onwards, you would see, with the arrival of all of these different people, the people who were already in Britain, essentially the Celts, or another term for them I think is literally Britons, were then being moved. They were displaced out and would either go north into Scotland, where there was already people who lived naturally in Scotland. They would go into Wales or cross the water into Ireland, where there was already Irish people already there who had been there since the Ice Age. They would move into Cornwall. If anyone's watching this who is from Cornwall, the Cornish people, that's actually like their own proper ethnicity. And then also some of these Britons moved across the Channel into the north of France, into an area called Brittany. Okay, so with the Anglo-Saxons, the east of England, the majority of the south of England, and obviously East Anglia was the territory that they predominantly lived in. You'll probably notice that East Anglia, Anglo. There's also England, comes from the word Anglo as well. The reason that I'm not myself holding any of this Anglo-Saxon blood is because when I actually spoke with my family about this and said to them, wait a second, where did everybody live before we lived here? My family that I would have assumed were Anglo-Saxon were actually from the Cotswolds. Now the Cotswolds, when you look at a map of England, basically more or less bordering Wales or a little bit into Wales, basically it's West Country. And it's an area that when you look at all of the old maps and territories that belonged to, for example, either the Britons / Celts or the Anglo-Saxons, that area would have literally been a Celt area. That makes sense to me. And then obviously my nan, who was Welsh anyway, would have remained within that sort of area. I also noticed that my family have only really lived in East Anglia since about the 60s. So that makes sense. It would make sense why I can live in this area but not have any actual Anglo-Saxon blood. So here's a funny point that might wind a few people up. In a way, I'm actually probably more English than the English people living around here, because let's face it, you're all German really. But the Saxons were from Germany, and obviously the Anglos were from Denmark. Who's more English? We was here first.
Oh, that's racist.
Fun fact, like let's just bring in some geopolitics. Who has noticed that Putin often refers to the West as the Anglo-Saxons? Those meddling USA people, those meddling English people, those meddling Germans. I would have got away with it too if it weren't for those Anglo-Saxons. Well, I suppose you could argue that he is technically correct in saying that. Right, so moving swiftly on, the part that you were all waiting for. Why am I brown?
Racial. So
it says that I am 12.5% Scandinavian. Well, that's easy to explain because that's literally just Vikings, isn't it? The Vikings went in everywhere. So I'm basically 12.5% Viking / Norse, which I'm pretty sure a lot of people in the Anglosphere probably are. Not really much to say on that, and that's literally just covers the same ground as what I just spoke about for like the last 10 minutes of this video. It says that I am 2.3% Greek. I knew it! / South Italian, which is basically Roman Empire, explains that more or less. But yeah, So for all of you people out there who have asked me, am I Greek? Basically saying that I look like Marina Sirtis, you was 2% correct. Not that it's all that important, but it says that I am 0.8% Mesoamerican / Andean. I'm not really sure how that factors into things. I'm really not sure at all. I'm not even sure whether that's correct or not, because there's no way of really knowing if this is completely accurate or not. So, the part that you've all been waiting for. Why is she brown? Why is she brown?
Might as
Right,
well.
well, you've
Get
got
on
to
with it,
complain.
yeah.
Right.
I am 26.2% South Asian, specifically Sri Lankan, and then basically my granddad was Tamil. So you might be wondering, who are the Tamil people? The Tamil people are the ethnic minority in Sri Lanka. Back when the British Empire was running India and a lot of the Asian subcontinent, the Tamil people tended to sort of cozy up to the British, whereas the Sinhalese, who are the ethnic majority in Sri Lanka, didn't. They didn't want to integrate. When the British Empire left Sri Lanka, the Tamil people became quite persecuted to the point of ethnic cleansing. What you'll find is that the Tamil people have sort of migrated around the world. So like there's a huge population of Tamil people in Singapore, but you'll find Tamil people everywhere. You'll find them in Britain, you'll find them in Canada, the United States. They've moved around everywhere, and according to my DNA matches on this particular website, I have indeed got blood relatives in both Canada and the United States, which is really interesting. But yes, so the Tamil people, my granddad was Hindu, and by the looks of it, like it's literally just putting me down to that one group of people, which says to me that there wasn't a lot of people marrying and having children with people who were outside of being Tamil. Hinduism there was a lot of there was a caste system, there was a lot of arranged marriages, so it makes sense to me why that bloodline there would be, I suppose, more pure. But then my granddad would have bucked the trend by, first of all, leaving Sri Lanka, and secondly, marrying a Welsh lady. But yeah, it's very interesting to finally know for sure what my heritage actually is, and be able to actually share all of that with all of you lot watching right now. I hope you found this as interesting as I have. And if you're still here at this point in the video, thank you very much, and fingers crossed I shall see you all in the next video.